we see that this issue with the tzitzis is an example, at least according to Tosfot, of something that is when the Gemara is in conflict with some other ancient, I don't know what you call it, work that with a minhag type issue, we go sometimes like that thing. Now I'll tell you, I actually found in this exciting book, Daniel Sperber, Tabut Chomuid Be'eretz Yisrael B'Yemei Talmud. What is this talking about? Let's see in English. Material culture in Eretz Yisrael during the Talmudic period. All right. So this is talking about material culture means stuff that people had, like pots, pans, hats, shoes. Very nice. Well, guess what? He has a huge discussion of. He has a huge discussion of what the apilyone is. What is an apilyone? You know, the thing that I was showing. Okay. And then he goes and he has pictures of people wearing apilyones over here, and it kind of looks like this, which is more or less like a toga, something along these lines. And he says that guess what? People used to be buried in apilyones. It was very common. However, Yigal Yadin, the famous archaeologist, he says as follows. This is a quote from a book from Yigal Yadin. מעניין לציין שבכוכים שבהם נתגלו הטליתות לא מצאנו כל שרידי ציציות. Whenever we saw anybody buried in one of these things, which he calls a pallium, a pilyone, there was never tzitzit or tzitzit remnants. Lo ala talitot, not on the garment itself, v'lo al ritzpot hakuchim, and not on the floor of these things either. He says it must be that they were noheg lahasir hatzitziot mitalitot hanikbarim, that they would remove the tzitziot. Well, that's what he says. But
were there holes?
What?
Were there holes in the corners?
I don't know. That doesn't say all that. I don't know. I don't know. Right. It's a mystery. But at least you see that the custom in Israel was not to be buried in a tzitzit. So what we have today is
to take it off.
Or to take it off. What we have today is then when we do a custom is to sort of play both things. Now we have 1 minute, and I'll give you another example. Now we saw another example of, so this custom, or the way we do it today, is an example of one going against the Gemara based on something in Masechtot Ktanot, and we saw other examples of that in terms of the laning on fast days and in terms of the haftarahs during the summertime. But there's another example, and now there's also an example of kind of doing something and undoing it when there's a machloket about doing it. You don't really know what to do. Now, let us look at a famous thing just for a minute, where the Shulchan Aruch talks about Kaddish. Now, the Shulchan Aruch says, Ha'onim, when you answer Kaddish, Ha'onim ad la'omei omaya, whoever says Yehei Shmei Rabbah and says up till the words la'omei omaya bilvad to'imhem. If you just go up to there, that's a mistake. Asur lahafrid ben almaya liyitbarach. You cannot make a stop between almaya and yitbarach, right? You have to say yitbarach out loud too. And in fact, in this art scroll that I have, they bold print what you got to say out loud. Not this one, but the Hebrew on Hebrew one. You know that one? They bold print the yitbarach also. Okay. However, the Mishnah Berurah brings down, says, wait a second, no. It says the Gra writes, Lolo marak at tevat omaya bilvad. The Vilna Gaon says exactly to say omaya, not yitbarach. Now, you have to think, how do they do it? I don't know how people do it, right? So he says you say omaya, but not yitbarach. Why? Ki kan hu siyum hashevach. Because that's the end of the sentence. And if you look in the siddur, here we have a nice translated art scroll siddur, and it says, this is how you read the sentence. It says, may his name be blessed forever and ever, blessed. Or it's really supposed to be read like this. Yeah, it depends how you read it. Either it's Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'olam Umei Omaya Yitbarach, right? May the name of God be blessed forever and ever, Yitbarach, it should be blessed. That's way number one, Shulchan Aruch way, Yitbarach, period. Or the Vilna Gaon says, no, Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'olam Umei Omaya, may God's name be blessed forever and ever, period. Then, Yitbarach, Ve'yishtabach, Ve'yitpar, it should be this and this and this and this, right? The fact that the word after Yitbarach is Ve'yishtabach indicates that Yitbarach is together with it. That's right. However, now, and that's why Art Scroll even though they tell you to say Yitbarach along with that, when the translation they divide it into 2 sentences. However, the thing is that the Torah brings down that the word Yishtabach is not written with a Vav. And if it's not written with a Vav, it's not connected to Yitbarach. So therefore we now have an interesting conflict. What are we supposed to do? Because we're saying the sentence either the right way or the wrong way. Well, I found that the minhag in Teiman is that they say that word, the congregation says it, but quietly, because since you don't know if you're supposed to say it or not, just like with the tzitzit, we put it on and take it off, or put it on and rip it, put it on and hide it. Here we have another example of you sort of say it, but you don't really really say it. And this also comes up in a few other things. I'll just give you one more example. There's a question there's a machloket between the Rambam and Tosfot about whether on Purim you say Shehecheyanu in the morning as well, or just at night. When you read the Megillah, is there 2 Shecheyanus or 1 Shecheyanu? The Rambam says there's only 1 Shecheyanu, because that's Shecheyanus for the whole day, just like every holiday. 1 Shecheyanu for the whole day. Tosfot says no, there's a 2nd Shecheyanu in the morning, because really the daytime Megillah reading is the real one, so that's when you have to do a 2nd Shecheyanu. And the Torah brings down that Rav Meir of Rottenburg, you know what he would do? He would say that bracha in the morning, but he would say it quietly, because if you say it quietly, it's sort of like it doesn't count. And that's why also the Levush, for example, says that if you put on tefillin, on Chol HaMoed, he says tefillin on Chol HaMoed, say the bracha quietly, because maybe you shouldn't be putting on tefillin.
Well, you say the bracha on tefillin shalosh
quietly. Tefillin shalosh quietly, because we don't know if we need that bracha. Right? Hashem, because you don't know, it's an interruption, all those kinds of things. It's an example. That's the verbal cognate to this tzitzis thing, of sort of doing it, but not really doing it. All right, people, that is the story, and now you know how that works. What?
One quick thing.
Yeah.
The Levaya.
Mm-hmm.
What's with the slabs that they put down just above the nifta?
That, I understood, is because it's considered disgraceful to shovel the earth right onto, especially in Israel, right? The person
There's no Aaron.
So they put that to be respectful. That's the idea.
There's a story, and if I remember correctly, it was a story about the Vilna Gaon.
Yeah. Here's a famous story.
So I kind of expected that to come out.
But
he said, bury me in my talus and don't destroy the tzitzis. And as they lowered him into the
Right, it got caught on something and got ripped. That's the thing is, I could not find that verified as a real story.
And it's too much of a rationalist.
I don't know what to say. I can't.
Together with Mekusheh
Yeah. Same story. Similar kind of a story.
Also,
right.
like during the Hara, the guy was supposed to be
right. And that is, but it seems that already from Tosfot's time, that was the thing. Because the Ritzvah said, to tuck it in. That's at Tosfot's time.
Is there a difference Sfari Ashkenazi minhag?
There's not. The only difference in minhag is Eretz Yisrael and not Eretz Yisrael. In Chutz La'aretz they rip it. In Eretz Yisrael they remove it. That's the difference. That's the main difference, and that's what the Gesher Chaim is telling the Israeli.
There's nobody around in any down the buries with a talus.
Like a real talus? No, nobody does. No, even though they say to do it, yeah.
I have a kind of a comment.
Yes.
You mentioned that they don't want to bury with the tzitzit because you don't bury something that's kodesh.
Right.
What about Sifrei Kodesh or Torah?
It's really true, and that's also that's also what they say, because the Gemara even says explicitly that the gniza of a Sefer Torah is to be buried along with a Talmud Chacham. So therefore, that would seem to contradict that kind of reasoning. You're entirely right, because the Gemara really says that you're supposed to bury people. That's really the ideal way to do it. So you're right, it's 100% true. That is the story. All right, so I'll tell you, this is the thing. I can't do it in 2 weeks, because Sharon, we have that